We don't have newspapers in our house. We don't have the news running. We've tried to shelter our kids from the reality of what my father has done, and finally I said, Dad hurt some people. I found out I was pregnant, and my therapist encouraged me to write my dad in prison. So I wrote him, and I told him I was expecting. But not long after I wrote him, I shut down again because I started thinking about that my mom was pregnant with me when my dad murdered Nancy Fox in December of '77.
25-year-old Nancy Jo Fox was found dead in her Pershing Street apartment. She had been bound and strangled.
I just couldn't imagine being pregnant and being around that. And I felt like I really needed to protect my growing baby. I had some health problems when I was pregnant with my daughter. And when she was born, I was okay for a little bit, and then I fell into pretty deep postpartum depression. Even now as a mother, like, it can be challenging. My reality is I live with anxiety and depression and PTSD. When my daughter was 5, she started saying, like, you know, I have one grandpa, but shouldn't I have 2 grandpas? Like, where's my other grandpa? And I remember being real upset, crying in the car around Father's Day. And I finally said, I have a dad, but my dad's in prison. And she's like, well, what's prison? And I was like, well, it's like a really long time out for adults. And she's like, well, how long? I'm like, really long, you know. So now she's 10. So we started checking with her as she started getting older. Like, I would say, what's the worst thing anybody could do? Because I wanted to see what she knew about, like, the worst of humanity. And she would say, like, somebody breaking into a home, like a robber. So I knew there was no way she was prepared to hear, like, that her grandfather was a murderer. We don't have newspapers in our house. We don't have the news running. We've tried to shelter our kids from the reality of what my father has done and who their grandfather is. But we also don't want them to not know anything and then become teenagers and look on the internet and wonder, like, why is mom on the internet? So we've slowly, as they've grown up, you know, tried to gently tell them, like, grandpa's in prison the rest of his life and the life after that. I've shared pictures of their grandfather. They've seen a little bit of the wedding video. They've seen me writing. They know mom's been writing a book forever. Like, they know, like, it's about my life with my dad. Finally, last fall, they kept bothering me, like, what did your dad do? What did your dad do? And finally I said, Dad hurt some people. And that's pretty much where we're at right now with our 10-year-old and our 7-year-old. My dedication in my book is partly to them, saying, like, Emily and Ian, I wrote this story to tell you my story when you're old enough to read it. I want to hand them my book when they're close to being adults to say, this is your mom, you know. Like, this is why your mom is sobbing on a Wednesday afternoon on the phone, you know, or this is why your mom needs a lot of naps. This is what your mom's gone through. And, you know, maybe this is why mom isn't always the best mom in the world because she's dealing with a lot. But I just want them to know, like, what I have lived and what I've fought through to be here alive, to be their mom, you know. I didn't think I was gonna survive this. And like, without my faith and without my husband and the rest of my family, I wouldn't be here. I want them and other people to know what it's like on this side, what it's like to live with somebody like my father and go through what we've gone through. I see a lot of families, you know, like with a school shooter or with the Vegas shooting. Like the media went and contacted that man's brothers right away. And like they're interviewing them and they're in shock. And I know what that feels like, you know, and I just trying to tell my story and let the rest of the world know what it's like to be a daughter of a serial killer.